Hey Bulldogs, happy Thursday. I'm here to talk to you today about your assignment. It is quite a bit of information today, so I just wanted to take some time and hopefully clear some things up for you and help narrow down some of your choices on what to do. So you're going to be looking at a timeline on slides 2 and 3. Then you will watch 2 videos based on what you find interesting on that timeline. And then you will have a choice of completing an assignment called Just the Facts or an assignment called History Meme. So let's go ahead and talk about your timeline. I just wanted to give you some really brief descriptions and information about what is going on in here because it's so much, and maybe the video will help you narrow down your choices on what you find interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and start right here. History of Russian politics, the year 862, the Kievan Rus, which is the story of how Russia begins, and it's going to talk about the powerful empire. 1480 to 1505. You're going to learn about Ivan the Great or Ivan II. You'll learn that this ruler expanded his lands, expanded his influence over all these lands, and of course other accomplishments. 1547 to 1584, you have the choice of learning about Ivan the Terrible, who becomes the first Tsar or emperor, ruler there of Russia, and he's actually the grandson of Ivan the Great. And you will find out about him expanding lands as well and how he makes Russia a centrally controlled state. And of course, he has a heavy military power. 1613, the beginning of the Romanov dynasty. So basically what a dynasty is a ruling family. And this family actually rules for about 300 years. They pass their power down through generations, so it's hereditary. So you learn about their rule over 300 years, very briefly, about their rule and how that rule comes to an end. 1914, Russia enters World War I. This happens in 1914. They will be allied, or they will be be friends with Britain, France, and eventually the United States. And then it will talk about Russia's military power, but also about its heavy losses from that war. 1917, the Russian Revolution marks the end of the Romanov dynasty. Vladimir Lenin takes power of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So basically, when these revolutionaries during the revolution, when Lenin comes to power, it'll mark the end of this family over here. In fact, Nicholas II was the Tsar, or the leader at that time in that family, but his dynasty will definitely come to an end once Lenin captures their family. And then 1929 to 1953, Joseph Stalin becomes dictator of Russia, or the Soviet Union. And what you will hear in that video is about how he came to power in the Communist Party, some of the things he tried to do for Russia: rapid industrialization, collective farming. So some things had some unfortunate consequences, but an important thing is he will join in the fight against Nazi Germany in World War II. So that brings us to our next part, which is 1939 and 1945, which is World War II begins. What you'll learn here is that Russia, or the Soviet Union, gets into World War II because of an attack by Germany. In 1939, they'd actually had an agreement that they wouldn't attack each other, but in 1941, Hitler changes his mind and attacks the Soviet Union, therefore bringing them into the war. All right, so after the war, 1946 begins the Cold War, and it's a growth of tensions and nuclear arms race. Basically what it is, it's not so much a conflict like it sounds, like military, but it does have a lot of political and military tension. Basically, it's the U.S. and the Soviet Union at odds and kind of suspicious of one another, and there's a lot of political tension, and they start developing weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, and it's a very intense time during the Cold War. 1957, you'll get a chance to learn about Sputnik 1, which is a satellite that the Soviet Union put into orbit in 1957, and it really scared the United States to know that Russia was able to launch that satellite and have it orbit the Earth, and that's what starts the space race. So the United States, of course, will compete to also put satellites and eventually men into space. 1962, you have the Cuban Missile Crisis. This was a very fearful time. 13-day standoff between the Soviet Union and the United States again. This time, the Soviet Union had put nuclear war missiles in Cuba, which is only 90 miles away from Florida. So obviously the United States is very nervous about this, and they have a 13-day standoff, and people were really genuinely scared that we might have a nuclear war. 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev is elected leader of the Communist Party. He wants, and this is in 1985, he actually wants to make some changes in the Soviet Union, kind of help the Soviet Union with economic and political problems that it had been having. And he still has this intention to keep socialism, which we've talked about before, but it has some other effects. 1991, end of the Cold War. Boris Yeltsin is the first popular presidential election, and he urges democracy. Now, finally, there's not a video for that one, but finally, the year 2000, Vladimir Putin is elected president, and he actually still is president today. He is someone that you probably hear about if you ever watch the news or even just catch little parts of it. He's very much a political figure today in the news, so you will learn about him. All right, Bulldogs, so hopefully that cleared a few things up for you because it's so much information. I thought that might help. Now, once you finish watching whichever two videos you'd like, then you're going to have a choice. You may complete just the facts, which is basically telling me the year you chose, the video you chose, and 3 things you learned. Okay, same thing here. You got to have 2 videos, the year, the name of the video, 3 things you learned. Okay, if you don't want to do that assignment, then this is your other choice, a history meme. So historical events are often portrayed through funny memes, and I'll show you some on the next slide. Basically, what you would do is you would have to, after you watch your videos and you learn about that event, you would create a meme. You'd find a picture, an image by using Google. It has to be school appropriate, of course. So you would put your image here, and then of course you would use a text box. Okay, there's a text box up here. You can always insert a text box. And that is how you, here it is, text box. And that's how you can put a title or put some words for your meme. So here's some examples really quickly before we end this video. It says, Switzerland remained neutral in both world wars. So they made this meme like Switzerland just sitting there eating popcorn, watching everything happen. Okay. This one says Europeans, when they found new land, which is funny because they didn't really find any new land. There was natives there, right? Indigenous people. But this poor doggy, right, is getting kicked off the bed by this little baby, showing that that's kind of what Europe did when they found new land. And then finally, every time a foreign power tried to invade Russia during the winter. Funny because Russia is cold, like really cold. And we learned that today in our we learned that in our Wednesday lesson yesterday, how cold Russia can be. So anybody that tries to invade, especially in the winter, is in for a huge surprise. All right, Bulldogs, that's all I have for today. Sorry this video was a little bit longer. As always, if you have questions, reach out to your teachers. Have a great day. Bye.